Hi and welcome. This is Dr. Joanne Yanez. I am the chairperson of the Academic Collaborative for Integrative Health. And I am looking at our lovely board of directors meeting picture from from last summer, held at SCU. And I just wanted to take a moment and thank you all for taking a little bit of time to join us today. I see folks are starting to come in here, but I really want to say thank you. Actually, is there a way for either to advance a slide or for me to control it?
Deb should be able to advance it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deb,
Did it go?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Next slide.
There we go. Sorry.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. No, you
Rolling
bet.
now.
Yeah. All right. First off, big thanks. ACIH has a history of holding these meetings every year in order to celebrate our successes and highlight all of the things that are happening in the integrative space that impact our members. And so that is the spirit of today's meeting, and I'm very, very thankful to be able to welcome you all. I'm joined here by my illustrious executive committee, as well as our executive director, and you'll be hearing from a bunch of us today about all of the things that have been happening at ACIH over the year, as well as our plans for 2020. Next slide, please. So our board, as many of you know, is made up of representatives from all over. Next slide. The membership includes 18 national organizations, 30 colleges, universities, and schools, 15 associate organizations, and our core members are the councils of colleges, accrediting agencies, certification and testing orgs associated with the integrative health and medicine fields for the 5 professions that are defined as acupuncture, chiropractic, massage therapy, naturopathic medicine, and direct entry midwifery. However, I do want to highlight, as some of you may know, that we also have a membership category for emerging and traditional world medicine professions. And personally, I think this is so important as professions, new and old, are moving into the space of providing what we all provide, and true to our name, the Academic Collaborative for Integrative Health, there is no ownership on integrative medicine. And so for us, this also includes yoga therapy and Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathy, somatic movement, and nutrition specialists. Next slide. So our core organization members, and I'm assuming everyone can read, but we're so very thankful for everybody who comes to the table year in and year out and participates in our working groups, participates in the work that we do to promote integrative medicine and integrative health in the greater healthcare space. And so I'm really excited today to have Liza Goldblatt and David O'Brien speak to you a little bit about how we have been getting out there, and Alyssa is going to be talking a bit about some of our more recent work in the pain space. But I'm so thankful for everybody that shows up, that comes in to do the work, and just wanted to give a shout out as well to a brand new member that we have, Wang Gu. Next slide. University of Oriental Medicine, who is one of our new members. And thank you to all of the college members who have continued to come to the table and participate in our work and support your faculty and staff in participating with our committees and meetings and so on. Next slide. So a few of the emerging professions that we have here also as members: Ayurvedic Medical Association, Somatic Movement, International Association of Yoga Therapists, Council for Homeopathic Certification, American Organization for Bodywork Therapies in Asia, and Accreditation Commission for Homeopathic Education, North America. Next slide. So what is the vision and the mission for ACIH, and how does that tie into our day-to-day? we envision a healthcare system that is multidisciplinary, enhances the competence, respect, and collaboration across all healthcare disciplines. I think when you look at the vision and the mission, and next slide, go to, please. And our values, these values, the vision and the mission are embedded in everything that we do. And so when you're thinking about those values of equity and access, diversity and respect for all of the different traditions that exist in our professions, educational opportunities, research opportunities, having a healthcare system that is that recognizes the relationship between the health of the mind, body, and spirit and environment. All of these are woven into the projects that we choose. And I just wanted to share that, from the leadership's perspective, when we're looking at new projects, we go back to our values, we go back to our mission, we go back to our vision, and we say, are we aligned? Is this project aligned? Before we jump into something that may just be like a shiny widget, does this really meet the values that we profess to have? Next slide. So the CEDR has been part of our repertoire here at ACIH for a very long time. We have the 3rd edition currently out, and I wanted to share something exciting. So this past year, we had included some signups for the CEDR, as well as gathering information if somebody wants to download it, and have been really working to get this out to courses. I know I personally have gotten this out to the National Association of Advisors of the Health Professions to help folks when they are having like integrative health classes or intros to integrative medicine. This is a really valuable reference, and so it's available in print. It's available in, as I said, in a downloadable format as well. And so just visit our website if you haven't yet checked out the 3rd edition. Thank you. Next. And so now I'm going to turn over the stage and mute myself and allow Alyssa Worstrel to give us the year in review and share all of the wonderful things that we have done in 2019, as well as a little bit of our vision for 2020. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you, Joanne. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go for it.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Alyssa Worstrel. I'm the Executive Director for the Collaborative. And actually, from this slide, I am going to hand the baton directly over to David O'Brien and to Liza Goldblatt, both of whom are representatives for us with the National Academy of Medicine's Global Forum, which they will be speaking to in the following slides. I'll join a little bit after that. So I'm going to hand it now to Dr. Goldblatt and to David O'Brien.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. This is David O'Brien. I am on the executive committee and serve as a past chairman of the collaborative. One of the great things that we work on each year and put into practice is our activities in collaboration with the National Academy of Medicine's Global Forum. For those of you who are not familiar with the National Academy of Medicine, they are the oracle in healthcare in terms of advising Congress and the nation on healthcare issues. And the Global Forum is one of their different projects that they have. Our involvement here is directly in line with our mission and vision of sharing what our background, what we value in healthcare and in collaboration. And we were very active and have been for the last 9 years. I serve as the alternate for the group. Liza Goldblatt, Dr. Goldblatt, serves as our main member on this forum. It holds its meetings normally in Washington, D.C. Occasionally, we'll go out across the country. We are part of because we are members, we are part of a big family of healthcare providers and educational organizations involved in this global forum. Absent the collaborative in this endeavor, and there's not a voice for all of our integrative ideas, we bring that to the table, and we've been very active and vocal members of the group. And because we're there and participating, we've been asked to be on various committees that helped organize and make presentations to the broad group. So at this point, let me turn it over to Liza to talk a little bit about some of the details.
Great, thanks, David. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the things to point out also about, it's actually the Global Forum for Innovations in Health Professional Education. So one can see why we refer to it as a global forum. And basically what's quite unique at this particular, in this particular situation, and we meet twice a year, is virtually every health profession is at the table. And it focuses on education and clinical practice. And it's really looking for innovative ways to change our healthcare system. And the focus is quite specifically on moving from a fractionalized disease base with a perverse payment system approach to how we're approaching medicine, which is really more of a medical industry, to really shift from that approach to being collaborative, inclusive, team-based, and patient-centered. But one other interesting thing that I want to point out that's on this slide is we do 2 workshops a year. All the publications are free, and I would very much encourage people to go and look at their various publications, because as David was saying, these are announced to Congress, the administration, and also globally. And so there's some wonderful and excellent resources there. Next slide, please. So many of you who know me know I always also look to the root of situations. And in 2010, a report came out from The Lancet, and I think many people who are familiar with it, but it was also highly endorsed by WHO, the National Academy of Medicine, organizations throughout the world. They were really looking at what the health professionals should be for the 21st century. And they came to very similar conclusions, that we're a fractionalized disease-based system. We don't focus sufficiently on health and well-being. And as importantly, when health professionals work in teams, it is the most successful and effective way to deal with so many of the difficult chronic cases that we now have on our planet. And then another very seminal, I would urge people to read that if they have not. So another very seminal and important publication that came out, the Institute of Medicine, which is now called the National Academy of Medicine, of Health and Medicine. It's something like that. So the IOM is no longer used, but it's been elevated to be actually part of the National Academy of Medicine. They did the publication, The Future of Nursing. But in many ways, it applies to all health professionals, because it was really talking about the importance of all health professionals being able to practice up to the scope of their training and their levels of ability and practice. So it was really trying to shift some of the old ways of being a little bit to one could call MD dominant, to really, again, more of a team-based collaborative approach, and also an environment that very much cultivated and encouraged mutual respect and trust. So another interesting element that people may be aware of that was published by the IOM, and it was back in 1999, was called "To Err is Human." And that was the first article. It was done by Samantha Chow, with whom I actually worked with back in those days. And "To Err is Human" was the first article that indicated how many people conventional medicine was killing. And at that time, it was 100,000. It's now the 3rd highest cause of death after cancer and heart, and it's up to 500,000. And when they really looked at a deep dive into why this is happening, a lot of the issues would come down to communication, also a medical industry approach of do more with less, and the way they felt that they could best begin to cope with it, at least at the educational level, was to require interprofessional education, which is basically people really learning about each other, health professions learning about each other, and how to work with each other collaboratively for the benefit of the patients. So the IPEC started out with 6 professions, all conventional medicine. They're now up to, I think, 27. No, the chiropractors are members. I know we are a supporting organization. So these 4 core competencies, which have many subcompetencies, and again, if people are not familiar with them, I would urge you to read them. These 4 competencies are now required by virtually every accreditation body in health professions in this country and also throughout the world. So these are very fundamental core competencies that I think we would all agree. And you'll see in particular these last 2. So interprofessional communication, team and teamwork. So these are really quite new in a sense, and they are beginning to take note that it does have some effect. If people are really doing it, it actually is affecting the levels of medical error. So then the National Academy of Medicine, after these IPEC competency weeks were created, thought we actually need to create a global forum in innovations of health professional education, meaning how are we going to change how we educate all of our health professionals so they work in collaborative, team-based, patient-centered care. So they actually brought us all together, every health profession, as I say, at the table. And what David said, we are at this time the only ones representing integrative medicine and health, but virtually every health profession is at this table. One needs to represent a national organization as well as be approved by the National Academy of Medicine. And somehow David and I got in there. We're not quite sure why, but it's been really an amazing opportunity. When Joanne mentioned the CEDR, one of the first things I did when we joined was I gave every single member at the table a copy of the CEDR. So we have about 3 missions when we go to the Global Forum. And one is to simply educate them on who we are, because there's such a lack of education still. The other is to really focus on health and well-being and the importance of health and well-being. And the other is to do quite a bit of networking, because I think most of us know that changes occur and opportunities occur when people get to know each other and work together and really learn more about each other. So as David mentioned, we have been now part of this global forum for many, many years. And again, as many people know, some of us have been in there for several years, and relationships have developed and people have ended up working together in other subcommittees. But there were 2 seminal workshops. Next slide, please. There were 2 seminal workshops that were really held in 2018. The first one was something that we worked with from the day we walked in there. And at that time, it was myself and John Weeks, and we put together a subcommittee right away saying, with 75% of our $3.5 trillion going into healthcare, why aren't we focusing more on health and well-being? And for this workshop, we really decided to focus more on a systems approach, because truly it is a systems issue. And this was one of the best attended workshops that we had. And I'll go on to the next one, David, and then ask you to comment on both. The next one, which was an amazing workshop, and it was one of the most enthusiastic workshops I've been to that was part of the National Academy of Medicine, was the role of the non-pharmacological approaches to pain management. And that particular workshop focused on the research, because if it's a non-pharmacological approach, it's always where's the research, on policy, and again on education. So David, maybe you could go into a little bit on both these workshops, but in particular on the December one on who attended, because I think these were both real fruitions of the work we have been doing there for over 6 years.
Yes, and I think one of the interesting things about what we've done in this area is because our original reps were Liza and John Weeks, both known as Shrinking Violets in their own group. We've really been able to make an impact with that. The first one was we helped plan and were deeply involved, and Liza really gave a great deal of leadership into that well-being and resilience in the spring. And I thought we've really arrived now that we're not just there, we're in the planning process and helping to prepare the agendas at the meetings. The second one that we had on the opioid crisis in December, I got to tell you, those of you who are on the line, this was a moment that some of us who have been in the vineyards working, was a watershed moment of recognition of the contributions we make in healthcare that just has not been happening. And it came through in the opioid crisis that our kind of care is a great portion of in response. We can be part of the answer to the opioid crisis. And we had the leaders from across the country and the world were listening in on this conference. They had several hundred people on site, and it went out across the country on a webinar basis. You had the VA, the Social Security, CMS, you had the military, you had all these different players in the room, all the leading scientists. And when one or two misstatements were made, people in the audience from our field were able to get up and address. I know, Joanne, I think you had a question there. Christine Gritz had a question to help straighten out some of the questions that were there. Just two indications of the kind of input that we're able to have now and the impact. It was a seminal moment in healthcare discussions. It just hasn't happened beforehand, and this was really an exciting moment. I came back and told my board that this was one of those moments that you have to stop and take stock of, because it's a turning point. And if you're a Malcolm Gladwell fan, there are tipping points, and you can see things happening. And this was one where we can be a great help and partner in the healthcare system, and that's what happened at that moment. And it's an ongoing, obviously the opioid crisis is ongoing, where we stand and how the nation helps resolve the issue that's there. But turning to things like the Joint Commission has made changes in its observations and rules and guidelines for hospitals, that they should be looking for integrative other non-pharmaceutical methods for treating pain. Things where they now have actually scoring for that, so hospitals get dinged if their health providers aren't providing an opportunity to have other ways to deal with pain for their patients. So this was really a big thing, and I don't think we would have been able to do it as much. So that's sort of my observation. I can get carried away with this one, so I'll stop here.
We both can. So this brings up another element to my mind, which is one of the reasons we developed the academic collaborative for integrative health is we knew that if we all worked together, we would be much stronger. And one of our decisions was to really try and be at the table, so to speak, of important organizations, whether they're local or state or national or even global. And there is no question that having been at the table of the Global Forum since 2012, and then both John and myself were on the planning committee for this, we indeed were able to have a significant impact, because many of the presenters were from some of the complementary and integrative health disciplines, as well as many of our colleagues from the consortium. So next slide, please. So as David said, both of those workshops really happening in the same year. Oh, by the way, I should mention that the National Academy of Medicine, so actually the big board, the National Academy of Medicine, has now taken upon itself the project of clinician well-being. And so one of the areas that we can feel really good about is we really brought this to the forefront of the Global Forum. And the National Academy of Medicine, one of the board members, usually attend some of the Global Forum meetings. So in 2019, and we set these meetings together about a year ahead of time. Another element that really came forward, that even though we've talked a lot about the social determinants of health, which should include, of course, mental health, and it does, And we decided to hold an entire meeting on mental health because in some ways our healthcare system can tend to focus on physical health and not really look at all the social determinants of health. There are other countries that are well ahead of us in this area, as I'm sure all of us would agree. So we decided to take a flashlight into the social determinants of mental health. And there are many issues that are unique to this country, and there are some ways that some of these areas are being worked with effectively and other ways not. So we were really talking about how interprofessional education, could really, and collaborative practice could help assist in what some people are calling really a mental health crisis, which is also directly correlated, as we know, the opioid crises and other homeless crises. We could all go on. So that was actually a very informative and excellent workshop. And then one of the things we wanted to do, because we had not done this since 2012, was really have some strategic planning and visioning, which is always good for any organization to do. And we talked quite a bit about, okay, why does a global forum exist at this point? Because there are so many organizations now that do indeed focus on interprofessional education and collaborative practice. IPEC, for example, holds workshops, and there's another one which is IPEC for the professional that is also offering workshops and things like that. But the thing that we all agreed on, and there was a very strong general consensus, is that being affiliated with the National Academy of Medicine, just that in itself, really offers some opportunities for publications, for doing workshops, for having impact on how the National Academy of Medicine, offers Congress and the administration and internationally, ways of addressing and coping with so many of the challenges we face today. So we all felt that in itself was a very powerful situation. But as far as we knew, it's literally the only national organization that is as inclusive as it is. And so it's a pretty unique organization that, albeit slowly, we feel is really starting to make some impression. We did quite a bit of analysis of why interprofessional education and collaborative practice has not advanced more quickly, why the movement is so slowly, and rarely is it, we find that it's institutionally wide in its existence. So every health profession at a particular university or college will be actually focusing quite intensely, from the very leadership to the faculty to the students to the supervisors, on interprofessional education and collaborative practice. And we were talking about all the issues: turf, economics, more turf, and arrogance, and all kinds of elements that are really and it's hard to change academics. They're slow to change. So one of the things that that you'll notice with the next workshops being considered, really B and C in some ways are nicely linked. The team-based approach to pain management actually became larger because we really felt that why aren't more educational institutions, if it offers a medical and nursing and PT program, why aren't they doing more interprofessional education and collaborative practice institution-wide? And it goes right along with rethinking clinic education, a transition to practice. And several of us really supported the importance of now beginning to take a microscope and looking at, how can we further advance IPE and get it to move up a bit. And the one area that I personally am focusing on very intensely, and I've started a subcommittee on it, which is for all of us an even deeper question. Very few of the formal interprofessional education programs include our disciplines. So I have formed a small subcommittee, which has been endorsed by the Global Forum, that is going to include both conventional medicine practitioners and individuals from our disciplines, to really start together and look at what are some of the positive ways we could do it. How can we make sure our disciplines are more included both in interprofessional education, but also certainly in the practice settings. So that's something what we often do is we start a subcommittee, it gains growth, which is exactly what we did with health and wellness and looking at the systems there. We had a subcommittee going for 4 years. And so I am quite confident that this new informal committee, and David and I will both be part of it, will really begin to gain momentum and probably quite a bit quicker because we have some strong allies that are already very interested in it and want to be members of it. The other workshop that's being considered, which is a fascinating one, and it's already going to affect health and is affecting health, is artificial intelligence. And so there were a number of people also interested in this. So it's very likely that all three of these will be considered. Okay.
Just want to say thank you to the funders who provided.
Yes. I was going to do that. I think this is our last slide. Is that correct? Can we go to the next one? Oh, no. I will be very
quick. Liza, this is Alyssa just jumping in, just a time check. We do have a lot more material to cover, so if you can give us a quick synopsis on the Consortium Collaborative course, and then we'll move forward from there. Thanks.
I will just do 2 minutes on this one because it's still a project in process. But just to say that our work at the Global Forum, I think, has made a very significant impact on all of our colleagues and has also really made a significant impact on the collaborative. I think it's been a very excellent mutual relationship. So one last thing, and it's very quick because it's still in process, is one of the things that many of the collaborative disciplines have talked about for several years now is, or asking the question, are we preparing our practitioners to walk into conventional medical settings? And are the consortium practitioners, many of their clinics, there are about 75 or 6 members of the consortium now, are all their practitioners also sufficiently familiar with many of our practitioners, as they are frequently ones that will hire some of the individuals and practitioners from our disciplines. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. Our plan is to create a 36-hour hybrid course. And the idea is that it will have 3 aspects. It will train our practitioners to be prepared to walk into conventional medicine clinics. It will train all the people involved in integrative health and medicine to be very familiar with the basics of interprofessional education and how to work in a team. And it will also offer further education to the conventional medicine practitioners in the integrative clinics to be sure they have sufficient in-depth knowledge, not of just 1 or 2 of our disciplines, but of really all of them. So the last element is we also felt it was very important to have a hybrid, and the 6 hours will really tend to focus on what we call the hidden curriculum. How do you develop, trust and mutual respect and deal with conflict? What if people don't agree with the approach to the patient? And with difficult chronic cases, I mean, we all know that it truly does take a team to work with an individual that has a very difficult situation. Okay, next slide. And just very briefly, don't need to go into this at all. We have 3 individuals that are from the consortium and 3 from the collaborative. Bill Egloff, who is a funder of the development of this project, is still highly supportive. We're in touch with him. We have a $40,000 matching grant, but to start the project, we need to raise about another $80,000. So if anyone on the call knows of some funders, that would be fabulous. And just one last comment, and I'll pass it back to David to thank the George Family Foundation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll just, this has been a really whirlwind year. Last couple of years have made big impressions on our colleagues doing what we set out to do and making an impact. The George Foundation has been a proud supporter of ours, and we thank them very much for that. We got a matching NCMIC. Again, thanks to both for making all these efforts possible. And without your help and support, and then also to Bill, thank you for yours as well, and other funders, we're just so appreciative. Thank you. Turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. This is Alyssa Wustrel, Executive Director for the Collaborative. Now I'm going to get a little granular on you. Before I do, I have a housekeeping suggestion, which is that if anyone has any questions, please enter them into your chat function. And we are going to try to protect a minute or so toward the end of the presentation. The rest of the presentation will be on our current activities that I'll share with you that have taken place in 2019, both from our working groups. We'll hear from Beth Rosenthal and Deb Hill. And right now I'm going to share with you a couple of our outstanding activities that are current, front and center. Go ahead, Deb. Thank you. But first, I do want to just spend just a minute on this slide. I wish I could spend more time. This is very important. Our Dr. Liza Goldblatt, our past chair and founding board member, as well as past interim ED of the collaborative, was the recipient of the AIHM, the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine's Changemaker Award, which was bestowed on her at the AIHM conference in October and given to her by the year's previous recipient, Penny George, who received that award in 2018, shared with Christine Mack. The Academy gives this annual award for the following purpose, and I'm reading this directly from the print on their website. Quote, in every profession and walk of life, there are change makers. These are the people who get things done, the movers and shakers. The recipients of the Changemaker Award have done something so significant in the field of integrative health and medicine that it has advanced all of us. In the trenches, their work in activism, advocacy, policy, or politics has accomplished broad change, laws of consciousness shifts that have advanced people-centered medicine and healthcare for all of us on the planet. So that was in October, and then in November, John Weeks honored Dr. Goldblatt with a follow-on tribute in the Integrator blog with commentary from 8 colleagues over the span of Liza's career. It's a very moving and wonderful tribute, and I encourage you to take a look at that in the previous issue in November from John Weeks. It was lovely. So on behalf of the entire ACIH board and staff, along with our membership on this call, we'd like to once again congratulate you, Dr. Goldblatt, on being the recipient of this esteemed and much-deserved annual Changemaker Award bestowed by the Academy. Congratulations. So moving forward, go ahead.
Thank you.
Now you're welcome. Thank you. We're just so proud of all that you have done and the impact and leadership that you have provided to all of us over the years. Thank you. So now I really am going to get granular on you all, and I'm going to try and talk quickly so that I can leave plenty of time for my colleagues to talk about the wonderful projects and strategic working group focus of our 3 different working groups. But first, I want to let you know that ACIH has for the second year joined forces with COMPTA, who is one of our core members, the Commission on Massage Therapy Accreditation, for a joint webinar. And this time our title was, Are You Safe and Competent to Practice? You can see our panelists on the slide. This gave us an opportunity to dive into competencies that are specific to massage therapy, but also to review our history in this arena and vis-a-vis IPEC, Interprofessional Education Collaborative. So this webinar was quite popular. We had over 80 registrants, and one of whom attended was a faculty member at a school that brought their entire class online for the webinar. So we found going to the second year with COMPTA that the joint webinars are of interest to our core membership as a means of strategic collaboration, and they're of interest to our friends and followers and allied organizations. So we are planning another one. Our next joint webinar will be in partnership with NCCAOM, the National Certification Commission of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and we expect to launch that in the first quarter of 2020, and there will be CEUs provided for that. We'll continue to bring experts to the table in this format because it allows us to tackle some really interesting and controversial topics, and I expect no less in our partnership with NCCAOM. So we'll be sending out info about that in the early part of next year. I also want to note that it's not on this slide, but we have had a nice connection in 2019 with Acupuncture Today. We had a placement of a 1,000-word piece that was authored by Liza Goldblatt, Corey Ward-Cook, and myself. And in turn, it provided an opportunity for ACIH to place up to 4 more pieces in Acupuncture Today in 2020. And we do have our next article coming out focused on IPE in acupuncture in the February issue, and that has been co-authored by board members Stacey Gomes, Iman Majid, and Liza Goldblatt. Go ahead, please. So this next slide is a reminder, of course, of the other organizations that we interface and collaborate with regularly. You can see them on the screen. I'm not going to go through them all because we are familiar with all of these players. But I do want to point out that there is a new kid on the block. Down the bottom, Alliance to Advance Comprehensive Integrative Pain Management, or AACIPM. I want to spend just a few minutes sharing a bit more information about AACIPM. Go to the next slide. So AACIPM is a hub for action and resources to advance comprehensive integrative pain management. It's the first of its kind multi-stakeholder collaborative to promote CIPM for the over 50 million Americans that we know are living with inadequately treated pain. It's led and directed by Amy Goldstein on the right on the slide, formerly of the Academy of Integrative Pain Management. And it's funded by a multi-year grant from the Lovell Foundation. So AACIPM, the URL is there. The website just went live. It's a brand new alliance and brand new launch. It just went live yesterday, the website. They're building a repository of CIPM resources, reports, studies, papers, policies, and more. There's 75 stakeholder organizations and leaders representing policy experts, people living with pain, patient and caregiver advocates, many other stakeholders. I'm not going to go through the whole list because I just don't have time, but do check it out and check out their advisory committee because Amy Goldstein has gathered, I mean, she's quite brilliant in convening leaders, and she has gathered a really stellar advisory committee. So I recommend that you take a look at that. One of the people that is going to have a big impact, along with everyone else on the advisory committee, is Dr. Vanilla Singh, the former medical officer of the HHS, who is also the chair of the congressionally mandated HHS Pain Management Task Force. She's now at Stanford, and Adam Seidner, Chief Medical Officer of the Hartford. So the second URL there, morningconsult.com, is to an op-ed that came out from AACIPM, authored by Dr. Adam Seidner and Cheryl Larson, who's with the Midwest Business Health Group, on Friday in Morning Consult. And so I encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't already. It's very supportive of the integrative health community and professions. And I'm sharing all this with you not only because it's important and timely, but also because ACIH is actually playing a key internal coordinating role in strategic outreach to our community and the integrative health professions around the work of this alliance, and how we can most effectively co-organize around such a huge issue and move forward with joined hands. So I'm wearing two hats now. One is as Integrative Health Sector Coordinator. This is a position that's funded through the Lovell Foundation grant that was awarded to Amy Goldstein to direct this multi-year initiative and launch it. And my other hat is as ED of the collaborative. And the two hats fit my big head very well. Okay, my job with the Alliance is to coordinate our joint efforts in the integrative sector related to comprehensive integrative pain management. So you can go to the next slide. And this is a picture of a historic meeting that took place at the AIHM conference. Thanks to Tabby Parker for providing in-kind resources for all of these nonprofit leaders to meet on about comprehensive integrative pain management and this new alliance. So you see here Tabby Parker, ED, on my left of the Academy, and Rhonda Smith, the ED with I Am For Us. There's me, and then Tracy Bowen next to me with IHPC, new ED, Dale West with the consortium, and Amy Goldstein on the far right, Director of the Alliance. So do take a look at those URLs if you haven't already, and share, like, post on social media, take a look at the newsletters that will be coming out, etc. And let me check my time. Okay, I'm just going to wrap up with this next slide. Go ahead. And this is important, very important, this joint statement. I wanted to make sure in the spirit of the exploration of strategic partnership possibilities, and as a follow-on to the type of partnerships I've just shared with you that we're doing on a joint webinar level with our core members, and also that we're doing at large with groups like the Alliance to Advance Comprehensive Integrative Pain Management, we are in a really interesting conversation with the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine about ways that we can explore strategic partnership possibilities. So we did issue to our respective boards this statement of intention in the fall of 2019, in fact, after the Academy's conference in October, which is, and you can see it on the screen, but I'm going to read it quickly and then turn the next part of the presentation to Beth Rosenthal and to Deb Hill. But just for, in the spirit of sharing this language, the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine and the Academic Collaborative for Integrative Health have designated a joint task force to explore strategic partnership possibilities. Both organizations have noted a similarity in mission and vision that suggests strategic synergies for various projects and programs. The intention of the joint task force is to explore these synergies in more depth and report back to the respective boards possible next steps. So of course we'll be keeping the community at large also informed about how this evolves. And with that, next slide, please. I am turning it over to the superb duo of Beth Rosenthal and Deb Hill to give us some overview of the working groups.
Thank you, Alyssa. Deb, you can start.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alyssa. So we have some exciting news up front that I have been brought on to join Beth in this exciting new role as managing our working groups. For those of you who don't know me, I've been loosely, I've been affiliated with the collaborative since 2013, so I'm very familiar with all of the amazing work that the working groups do and put together. So I've been brought on to help Beth and to help manage, help with the management of the working groups and some of the membership coordination, and that's going to free up some of Beth's time to devote to all those wonderful projects and further those. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Beth.
Well, thanks. That takes care of that. We're real excited to have you, Deb, and you can carry on with the working group slides, and then I'll pick it up when we get to the projects.
Beth, actually, I think I'll let you take it over from here.
Sure.
On the
Okay.
Yeah, the recorded presentations and discussions, because most of this was done during the last year. So I'll let you continue from here.
And this is the sort of thing that Deb will be taking over as we move into 2020. But what you can see here, these are all on the web, and you can go to the next slide, Deb. There's a lot of information packed on these slides. It's not really meant for you to read now. The slides will be made available to you later. It's just to show you that we have a lot of these recorded webinars for when we have presentations and discussions on the working group. We've had some wonderful speakers, both within our working groups and as guests. Next slide, please. And now that brings it to the special projects. But I guess before we move there, because that was sort of fast, even though we need to move quickly because of time, I do want to acknowledge the fantastic work. We are so fortunate to have volunteers on our education working group, clinical working group, and research working group. And we have a balance of all disciplines represented on our working groups. I do encourage you to go to our website to see the members and to get a sense of what we're doing. The working groups help decide on what special projects we're going to be involved in. And as Joanne said in the beginning, when they are highly aligned with our mission, vision, and values, then we decide whether we can go forward on them. So thanks. Next slide, Deb. I'm going to highlight some of our projects now, again, moving as quickly as I can. In the research working group, they had the idea of having a directory of researchers to facilitate collaboration and looking for grants together. And after thinking about what kind of structure to have to facilitate that, we decided to use the ResearchGate platform, which has been described as the Facebook for researchers. Next slide, please. This is tiny. I just wanted you to get a sense of it. This is a poster that was displayed at the Academy for Integrative Health and Medicine describing this project. This is also available on our website. It gives an idea of why we decided to use ResearchGate, what we hope to accomplish, and how it will further our collaborative efforts. Next slide, please. Right now, we have 4 projects on our ResearchGate. We have a lab, so the collaborative now has a presence on ResearchGate. And the project I want to highlight for this audience is the first one, the Academic Collaborative for Integrative Health Researcher Network project. The idea here is to have a place where researchers in the areas of integrative health and medicine can find each other. And if any researcher is welcome to join this, and then you'll be more visible to others who are involved in similar research projects. Next slide, please. So just to summarize this, you are welcome to join the collaborative lab and or projects in ResearchGate. We are also, one of our project is uploading all the, as we were known as ACAC, and our collaborative publications. We encourage you to share with others, and then there's a URL which will bring you to the collaborative website to get more information on this project and all of our other working group projects and presentations. Next slide, please. We're going to go through these super fast. These are just some other projects we have going on. Integrative clinic webinars. We also have the recordings for the past ones on our website. We bring in people to talk about their experiences with integrative clinics, and we have really fruitful learning discussions after the presentations. Next slide. Bridging the research gap between educational institutions. They are now in the process of seeking an IRB. The aim for this one will be to not keep on having to rebuild the wheel, but to find processes and actual resources for how to work collaboratively, researchers in different academic institutions and out actually in the world. Next slide, please. This is a systematic review of integrative health and medicine for under-resourced populations. This has been ongoing. They are producing a systematic review. We will definitely let you know when it has been published and is available for your reading pleasure. Next slide, please. PBRN project, we're exploring or deepening our understanding of practice-based research networks, the role that our disciplines can play. This is just in the exploratory stage now, and we hope to have a deeper understanding and to facilitate some more connections. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in joining a collaborative working group or any of our projects, you can contact Deb. Her email is there, and take a look at what we have on our website. And I think that's it for us, Deb.
Sounds great. Thanks, Beth.
Mm-hmm. You can go on to the next slide.
Oh, sorry about that. So I think this goes back to Alyssa, right?
Actually, Joanne is going to take us forward for the next 3 slides.
Yes, and earlier David had thanked our sponsors, and really we can't do what we do without the help of our numerous sponsors over the years. And so, it really is vital to the functioning of the ACIH and all of the projects that you just heard about and everything that we have been able to do. And so we have a lot of different ways that we are able to receive donations. There's membership categories. If you or anyone you know would like to be an individual member, we also have individual membership opportunities, and then larger donation opportunities like the ones that you see here. And so in general, big thank you to everyone who makes our work possible. And a special thank you to Southern California University of Health Sciences that houses our operations. Our physical office space allows for Alyssa to come in and join their campus and use their facilities for our purposes. The George Foundation, NCMEC, the Leo S. Guthman Foundation, Palmer College, and all of the anonymous supporters who wait in the wings and just want to see our work done. A big, hearty thank you. Next slide. Uh-oh. So if you have
Sorry
not
about
already
that.
joined, yeah, it's okay. So again, here's more information. If you or the associations that you're affiliated with would like to learn more about the membership that I just talked about, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Next slide.
And here, Joanne, before we close, I would say we have made up some time, and I would encourage people, if they had some questions, we have a lot of people online. We covered a lot of material, starting with Liza Goldblatt and David O'Brien's overview of this year with the Global Forum and some historical context as well, and then into the ongoing activities of this year, both the three working groups that are very active and the other activities that I shared with you. So I would see if we have any people who are interested in learning more, have some questions before we close. And give
Yes,
people just an
I
opportunity.
definitely invite questions at this point, if there are any. And I also just want to additionally say, if you have ideas or areas that you think we can collaborate or work better to support the integrative health community, also please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We typically conduct our strategic planning session and our planning for the subsequent year at our June in-person meeting. And so it would be wonderful for the timing of working and planning, if those of you who are excited and passionate about integrative medicine, if you have ideas or ways that we can serve the community better, to share those with us. We're always happy to hear new ways that we can branch out.
Okay, we have a few questions on our chat and question box. And one that came up a lot is, will the slides be available? Yes, the slides and recordings will be available on our website, and we will probably be able to send something out in a follow-up email through GoToWebinar. Adi Haramati had suggested a resource, which I will share with the others after this. And Adi also asked, are there plans for a collaborative meeting, annual, biannual, or other?
Alyssa, do you want to speak to the meeting question?
I mean, other than in this year, we have our annual board retreat that will happen at SCU in June. I think you're probably talking about a larger scale meeting that has happened in the past with the collaborative, or formerly ACIH. We don't have anything on that scale that's planned ahead, but we can talk if you have something in mind, Adi.
Can I shout out one other thank you? Again, thanks to Bill Egloff on his donation as well on developing the course, and to KPC for offering the $40,000 matching grant. So again, we are working on matching that grant, and if people have ideas, please contact Alyssa or myself.
Okay, over to you, Joanne. I don't see any other chat coming in right at the moment, so I think we just are getting in under the hour.
Yeah, if we don't have any additional questions, thank you all, and I wish you and your loved ones a very happy holidays, however you celebrate it, and we will see you in 2020.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Best to all.